computer. All right, let's do it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Housley, and welcome to Scottsdale Public Library's virtual program, Finding Unbiased Financial Advice, presented by Scott Sandell. Scott is the president of the Phoenix chapter of the nonprofit organization Foundation for Personal Financial Education. Without further ado, please welcome Scott. Thank you, Scott.
No problem. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Looks like we had several jump on at the last second here. I am going to hit the mute all button just in case people are jumping on as we go. We'll start everybody out in the mute. But it looks like we got a small enough group. If you have a burning question on a slide that is on the screen right away, feel free to unmute yourself and chime in. That way we can kind of work our way through this presentation. Usually this one, when we do it in person, we have a lot of back and forth on this because I will fully admit and will admit all the way through here that I am always biased when it comes to this topic. So being open and honest about when and where I'm biased, that will help you kind of dictate where this goes and how we talk about it. So hopefully I do as good as I can to show you all sides of everything that we talk about in this class. This class is extremely useful when it comes to trying to find a new advisor or trying to figure out if your current advisor is looking out for your best interest as well. So at the end, I'll show you how to get a copy of these slides because much of this is great for that process. So no problem sharing these slides. You just have to let me know and I'll show you how to do that at the end. Let's see. Again, the Foundation for Personal Financial Education is it's over 20 years old now, a nationwide nonprofit organization. We run the Arizona branch here in the Valley, and normally we do these classes in person. And so hopefully someday we'll get back to doing them in person. And personally, I just enjoy that more. The being able to work back and forth with the audience and talk to all of you individually is much better for me. I enjoy it more. So hopefully we'll get through this and enjoy all of it. My background, again, been running the nonprofit for about 8 years now. I have a master's degree from University of Arizona, finished all my classes for the CFP at Pepperdine University. And then I do own a local family of companies. And again, this is where I fully admit that I'll have biases and will point out where my biases are. So you're able to form your own opinions as you go. And we'll try to keep it just to facts from that standpoint, because that's the whole idea of this education. Hopefully you'll see a big difference between what we do and the wonderful dinner seminars that are out there. Let's see here. So lots to talk about in this. We're going to try to give you some good, solid, basic knowledge from behind the scenes as we go through here. And that's why it's so popular to ask for the slide deck. And we're more than happy to send it to you. So the basics, we're going to go through all the different licenses that are out there required to provide services. When we talk about unbiased advice, we're talking about advisors giving you advice without the biases that we find out there, and the licenses they hold become very important. And that'll be very telling when you're interviewing different advisors. Designations, all those things like a CFP or all those acronyms that come after names. We'll talk about those. We'll talk about the captive agent versus the independent agent. And then we'll talk about the different fee structures and how they make money. So really important basic information that will really help you decipher what you're sitting in front of. And then we'll kind of round it out with some discussions of who needs what type of advisor, what to look out for in new advisors, and what to watch out for with current advisors, and some miscellaneous. And so, there's such a huge wide range of advisory type roles out there, and it's really important to know exactly where you're getting this advice from, and whether you can rely on it or not. So when I break things down, one of the first things I do is help people understand that when you're sitting in front of somebody or talking to somebody on the phone and you're getting advice from them in this financial world, you've got to kind of start categorizing where you're getting this advice from. So the different types of advisors, I break it down into 4 different categories. You've got the salesman, and this is a big trick here in Arizona, is there are plenty of people that call themselves advisors, and all they're doing is selling you a product. Okay, so we do have to understand when we're sitting in front of a salesman, not an advisor. Anybody can call themselves a financial advisor. There's no law that says I can't, wake up tomorrow and sell shoes and call myself a salesman. So the vice versa can happen. Anybody can sell shoes tomorrow and wake up and call themselves a financial advisor. So it's up to you to decide whether the person is a salesman or not. The next part of this is what we call the customer service advisor. And notice I've got the air quotes around the word advisor. We have to understand that there's plenty of people, especially over the phone, that work for the big companies, and they're there to answer questions and help out the best they can, but they don't really actually have the knowledge and understanding of a financial advisor. They're reading scripts from computer screens. You ask them a question and they're typing it in and getting an answer from their computer system. So we have to be careful about this, especially when it comes to some of the important things. I've seen huge mistakes on inheriting IRA money with this. I've seen a lot of big painful mistakes involving taxes when it comes to this type of advisor. So be careful if you're taking advice from a customer service person. And then there's the investor. And just to back up a little bit, customer service, this also happens in what I call the big box shops. I'll just say a banking advisor. You walk in and the person that represents the investment advisory services in a bank quite often, not always, but quite often, is really just customer service. They're the ones that are really just doing the communication with you. The company and some people behind the scenes are the ones actually picking investments and managing your portfolio. So understand it's not always just over the phone. That it can just be the face man, the person really just there to work with the customer, that really doesn't do any of the investment picking or portfolio management at all. Then there's the investor. Okay, this is a person who, regardless of who you are and what point in life you are, they're good stock pickers. They just, how much money do you have, and I'll invest it and grow it. And that's really the mindset of an investor. They can be really good at investing money for growth, but they don't pay attention to taxation that they're causing you. They don't care whether you're 70 or 50 or 20 years old. They don't care about your situation per se. They're really just looking at how much money do you have? I'll invest it wisely. And when they think wisely, they think just growth is really all that anybody needs, which for some people is true, and for other people it's not true. So the investor may not be looking at the other factors, and that becomes important for a lot of people, whereas others, all you want your money to do is grow, and you don't really need it, and so the investor might be right for that person. And then there's the financial planner, and sometimes hard to find because you end up categorizing a lot of these people into these scenarios here. The financial planner has a more well-rounded background, understands taxation, understands estate planning and wealth transfer, understands the investing side of this, risk management, all the different factors, and typically you'll find them putting a plan together that is specific to you prior to investing. And So the financial planner is looking at the big picture as opposed to just investing the money, or just keeping you happy, or just selling you a product. And so that's kind of the gamut of the different advisors that you'll have out there. And so you have to understand the motivations of each of these advisors. So when we get down to the nitty gritty of this, when we talk about being unbiased, a lot of this comes from just understanding that there's a lot of tools out there, and tools or investments or financial practices or products. We have to understand that whether it's things like ETFs or annuities, income annuities are one category of annuities, mutual funds, life insurance, bonds, wealth accumulation annuities, and a different category of annuities. Then you got stocks, and you got even things like reverse mortgages. And when it comes to being unbiased, we just have to understand that none of these are all good for everybody, and none of these are all bad for everybody. Whether you like reverse mortgages or annuities, which are two of the most typically controversial topics in the financial world, we have to understand that if you're going to be unbiased, they're all just tools. A reverse mortgage can be fantastic for one person and not right for another person. The same thing for annuities, the same thing for bonds, life insurance, so forth and so on. Whereas a good advisor just looks at these as tools. And they can say that's right for you or not right for you, but to say all annuities are bad, or all reverse mortgages are bad, or all bonds are bad, or all stocks are bad, that's bias. And it's just not true. Each of these are right for some people in some situations. That's why they're all out there. And there's nothing wrong with these tools. It's just how they're applied to specific situations. So we have to understand, if you start seeing those biases, then we know there's motivations behind that other than just their opinion. So licenses, in order to actually have access to all these tools that are out there, we have to have different types of licensing. And so in general, the securities licensing handles risk-based investing. Okay, stocks, bonds, yes, bonds have a significant risk to them, especially at this point. Mutual funds, ETFs, REITs, variable annuities, variable life insurance, these are all considered securities. Securities are risk-based, meaning you can lose money in these things, okay? Then you got the insurance licensing side of this, which is the fixed and fixed indexed annuities, not the variable annuities. The fixed and fixed indexed have no risk. The income annuities, no risk. Life insurance, long-term care, home health, auto, all that type of stuff. So this is considered no market-based risk at all. The insurance licensing, as we'll go through, is fairly easy to get, especially compared to the securities licensing, because there is no risk of loss of principal due to any stock market fluctuations or any risks like that. So breaking down the securities licensing that you'll see out there, the primary license that you'll see first is a Series 6 license. This is the most prolific license out there. And this will tell you a lot about the person you're sitting in front. Here's a question you should always ask. What licenses do you hold? And so the Series 6 license is a limited investing securities license. It allows holders to sell packaged investment products such as mutual funds and variable annuities and variable life. So here's what I just said. These people can only advise you on mutual funds. That's it. They can't tell you buy an individual stock. Honestly, they're not even allowed to tell you to sell individual stocks. They can't sell you annuities other than variable annuities and variable life insurance. They can't use an ETF. That's mutual funds and mutual funds and mutual funds. So the reality is this is the newer advisors. Often the front line of the big box shops, the Schwabs, the Fidelities, all of them where they have an office. There's usually 5 or 6 of these, and then 1 or 2 of the what we call the Series 7 license, which is the full securities license. Okay, so the frontline worker can only work with people that are going to invest in mutual funds. So there is a bias right there. They can only advise you on mutual funds. If your portfolio is only mutual funds, you are paying fees to this advisor, the Series 6 advisor, but you're also paying fees to the advisors that manage the mutual fund portfolios. You inherently have 2 layers of fees. And I virtually guarantee you that you're pushing over 2% in fees when you're in this type of a setup. Okay, so you have to be careful here. There's a lot of games in this side, and I'll show you how they get paid. Next, the Series 7, this is the full securities licensing. This can do stocks, bonds, they can do options, it can do anything in the risk-based world, okay? So this is the big wig at the big firm, okay? Both of these have to be W-2 employees of a company. None of these are fiduciaries. The company is the fiduciary in this case. So we do have to make that distinction. The word fiduciary gets thrown out there way too much. Fiduciary is an actual legal status. Legal status of these people are employees. They have the responsibility to their company first, not to their client first. The company itself has the responsibility to the client. So if you have a problem with the company, not the individual advisor. Okay, so that's a distinction that needs to be drawn legally on this side. Then you get to the independent licensing, which is the Series 65. If you are operating independently, you must register in the state as a registered investment advisor, RIA. And what this really says is I'm operating independently. I have a securities license 65. I'm allowed to do everything the Series 7 can do except take commissions on transactions in the risk-based investing world, meaning I can't sell you a mutual fund that gives me a front load of 5% and take a big commission out of there. Okay, but I can still sell that mutual fund. I just can't take the commission. Okay, so the Series 65 can do everything in the stock market. They just can't take the hidden commissions that come out of your money. And when they register in the state as a registered investment advisor, they are a fiduciary. They are personally responsible for their actions, and they are supposed to. This doesn't mean dishonest people that are fiduciaries. There's dishonest people everywhere. And just like there's honest people that work for companies and that are employees. But the fiduciary's responsibility is to make decisions based on your needs, not their own needs. And you can hold them personally responsible. They can't hide behind a company. And that's important distinction when it comes to the Series 65 license and independently registered as an investment advisor. Okay, so at the big companies, you'll primarily find these 2 licenses. In the independent world, you'll find these licenses. Again, these are securities license. Okay, so if they are securities license, the independent world primarily has the 65, and then you'll see the 6 and 7 working for the companies. All right, then there's insurance licensing. And by the way, each of these has a bubble test you have to take. Slightly harder than easy. And then you have to do the background checks. You can't be a felon, all the basics on that side as well. But really, there's no requirements for experience. There's no educational requirements. You just have to be able to pass the test. Then there's the insurance side. Good news on this side, it's getting harder to get insurance licensing. Historically, understand that I used to say if you could fog a mirror, you could get an insurance license. The great thing that's happening right now is the insurance industry was individually run by each state. And now all the states are getting together and creating a database of insurance licensing. So now Arizona knows if Nevada kicks somebody out of Nevada for doing dishonest things and they take a license away, now Arizona's going to know. And now Arizona won't issue a license to that person. It used to be I could get kicked out of this state and move to the next state and do dishonest business there, and get kicked out of that state and move to the next state and do dishonest business there. And so we had these roaming thieves. There's just not any better way to put it, but they're roaming people that are doing bad things that can get an insurance license in the next state, And they're starting to get on top of that and get rid of that. The test is also getting harder. So the reality is that this is becoming a little more legitimate, but understand this. Anything that these people would advise or sell does not come with market-based risk. And anybody with a securities license can get their insurance license. There's no conflict of interest there. As a matter of fact, I would say that it's a conflict of interest to not get your insurance licensing, because again, it forces you into this biased world where all annuities are bad, all life insurance is bad, all don't get long-term care insurance, all this stuff. So insurance licensing is fairly easy to get because again, there's no risk. We have to understand that, and we have to figure out whether we're getting sold something by somebody that just has an insurance license or that it's being advised as a part of a financial plan. There's nothing wrong with any of these insurances. Some of these are necessities in life: homeowners insurance, auto insurance. Some people, the whole world of pensions and Social Security are annuities. So one way or another, most everybody has an annuity at some point in their life. TIA-CREF, if you're a teacher, a professor, you have lots of annuities. So the biases come when you just don't understand them or you don't have access to them and you can't advise on them. So it's better to have all the licensing so you can give honest advice on all sides of it. Okay. All right. So now my favorite picture in this whole slide deck, designations, all those wonderful little acronyms that come after people's names. And we have to admit, when we see, acronyms after people's names, we automatically think that they're smarter, that they have put effort into their career and have learned something to get that acronym. From an educational standpoint, I have a master's degree. Theoretically, I could put MBA after my name. CFP, you can put CFP after your name. The more acronyms after your name, the smarter you look. And it's not the financial industry only. It's lawyers. It's even the HR world, the management world. All the different industries have started coming up with these designations. So getting a master's degree, I started getting exposed to a never-ending onslaught of people telling me I need to come get their acronym. And so I started keeping a spreadsheet. Every time I saw a new one, I would throw it on the spreadsheet. And what I did was I started sorting these from hardest to get to easiest to get. And this spreadsheet's over 100 long, okay? And I just cut the top section of it out and put it on here. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to read it. So when we look at the standard in the financial planning industry, the CFP is the gold standard. It is as legitimate as it gets. It's similar to the CPA program for accountants. This is the certified financial planner. The reality is they have 15 semester hours of college education they have to take. There's an exam after each semester hour. It says 10 hours worth of exams, but there is an exam after each semester. You have to have 3 years experience with a bachelor's degree just to be able to get your CFP, or 5 years without a bachelor's degree. So the reality is that they have to have experience. they have to have solid education and testing in order to get this CFP, and they have to come back and get continuing education regularly. So this is a legitimate program that takes work and takes work to maintain on top of that. Okay. Then you go to the CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst, undergraduate degree, 4 years experience, 3 classes and 3 6-hour exams, but there's no continuing ed on that one. So I could have got it 20 years ago and sold shoes. No offense to anybody that sells shoes, but I could have sold shoes for 20 years and still called myself a chartered financial analyst. Chartered financial consultant. We call this one the Mini Cfp often. There are 8 courses, 6 of them are from the CFP program, and 2 additional courses. You have to have 3 years full-time experience, and then they have continuing ed every 2 years. The CLU, Chartered Life Underwriter, very specific in the life insurance industry. 8 college courses, 3 years full-time experience, and then continuing ed every 2 years. Then I want you to know what's going to happen here. So these really are the 4 that are legitimate out there. Then we get to the ones where it's pass a multiple choice test and pay a fee. The Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor makes you come back and pay another fee every year and do continuing ed. Okay. But the rest of these, there's no continuing ed, pass the multiple choice test and pay the fee. But after that, it's just pay a fee and you can use it. So if somebody says they're a master financial professional, they did nothing to get it except pay a fee. And if you go to the website for Master Financial Professional, it makes it look like they've been vetted and they're most wonderful, smartest people of all the advisors. But then you click to become a Master Financial Professional, and really the only thing you have to do is pay them to be able to use that acronym. And this is happening in all industries, not just the financial advisory industry. There's another 100 of these that you can just pay for. Okay. So when you see acronyms after their names, if you're really considering using them as an advisor, look into it a little bit and don't just look at the website. Click to become one of them and see what it says to take, see what it takes to become one of those acronyms, and be careful about that stuff out there, because a lot of it is smoke and mirrors, and salesmen use this stuff all the time. If I'm a salesman and want to create credibility, being a master financial professional will instantly create credibility in some respects. And all I have to do is just go pay a fee to use that name. So please, please, please be very careful about what you think of these acronyms when you see them on a business card. Most of them out there are really meaningless, really meaningless. And when I say multiple choice test, one answer will be 2, and the other 3 answers will be pizza, a tree. I mean, these tests are ridiculously easy. Even if you know nothing, you can pick the right answer. And so we have to be careful about these things that are out there. A lot of these acronyms are honestly just smoke and mirrors. So be careful. And that's why I put this picture of putting lipstick on a pig. We have to be careful about these things. All right. So now this one screen where I always tell people I am biased. I am an independent advisor, but I try to give you at least the facts and let you guys understand. I certainly understand both sides of this. When it becomes an idea of a captive agent, what we mean by that is an advisor who works for a company and the company dictates what they do. We have to understand that if Charles Schwab didn't have a system that controlled the advisors, he would have rogue advisors that would cause him to get sued nonstop, because the company is responsible for the advisor. We have to understand that simple fact. When you're an employee of a company, the company is responsible for the advisors, and you as their client can sue the company, not the individual. Okay. So when we work with captive advisors, the company is responsible legally for those advisors, which means they have to be very controlling over what those advisors do, which means they have to have systems in place and they have to prove that they're not biased, that they're not treating this client different than this client, that different than this client, different than that client, which means they have to treat all their clients the same. Otherwise they get in trouble. So captive agents, the pros, the good things about captive agents, they should know their company's products well. Okay, whether they work for Schwab, whether they work for MetLife, whoever they work for, they should know their stuff well. They should. Doesn't mean they always do. They're usually with well-established, well-known companies. Here's the big advantage right here. When it comes to your perception, the Schwab name's been out there forever. The Edward Jones name's been out there forever. They're not going to steal my money. If they were doing things wrong, they wouldn't be in business. All those things are true. That's I completely understand. So this is their huge advantage. They're with well-established, well-known companies. Okay. Then the other side of this is direct access to company education, research, and R&D. This is a good thing and a bad thing. One, they teach their employees what they want them to know. But two, they're also then comprised with young people, young advisors new to the business, because where else are they going to learn the business? They go through the training program at Edward Jones or Schwab or wherever. And so from a good perspective and a bad perspective, this helps. So the cons that are created because of this is typically comprised of the newer advisors learning the business. To be real honest, if I want to be a financial advisor coming out of college, I'm going to go work for one of the banks or one of the big box shops that the Schwab's, Fidelities, all those big boys out there, and I'm going to learn the ropes. And if I'm successful, then why would I stay? There's no real reason to stay with them, because you got to make money for yourself and the company. Whereas you go independent, now you only have to make money for yourself. You don't have to worry about paying for somebody else's company. And so that's what we typically see happen is the newer advisors go there, the successful ones leave and go independent. Can only use certain financial products. So again, they're stuck with whatever their company tells them they're allowed to use. Can be a slower process due to big corporate red tape, and largely managed by systems and protocols for all clients. So this is a big thing and good for some people and bad for other people. They have to treat all of you the same. They can't discriminate. And that's the weird part about this, because you'll find the complete opposite in the independent world. Legally, a fiduciary has to treat everybody differently, and literally have to prove that they were treating everybody individually. It's really a strange dichotomy out there in the investing world is the fact that the big boys, they get in big trouble if they're treating people differently, because anybody can look into it and say, well, you're treating this kind of person this way and you're treating this kind of person this way, and that's not good. And the strange thing is it's okay to discriminate based on age in the investing world, but it's not discriminating in any other way. Okay. So then there's the independent side, the pros on the independent side, access to all products and services. And I fully admit that this is up to the individual. There's nobody stopping me from getting any license I want out there. I can get any license I want, and I choose to have any license that I want. Whereas I could just go get my insurance license and sell an annuity to you, and that's all I care about is selling an annuity. So just because they're independent doesn't mean that they're not biased. It means that they have the ability to not be biased by licensing. Their hands are not tied with regards to financial vehicles, again, if they choose. And that becomes really important to understand that difference. They can still be biased. They can still choose to not use all financial vehicles, but that is entirely up to them. Usually less red tape and extra paperwork. Usually the independent world can move faster. Adherence to a fiduciary standard only if they hold the 65 license. Clients are actually ability to be cost competitive, meaning they're not trying to make money for their company and for themselves. And understand how most of these captive agents are getting paid by incentive. If the company wants them to sell more bonds, they're going to put financial incentives in front of these advisors to get them to sell more bonds. So ability to be cost competitive, they are really making a living for themselves, not for themselves and Schwab, Fidelity, Edward Jones, all the other big companies out there. And then clients don't have to be categorized for compliance, meaning from a fiduciary standard, we have to categorize you as an individual and make sure that there's decisions made based on your individual situation, not based on you're all 70, I'm treating you all this way. You're all 60, I'm treating you all this way. You're all 50, I'm treating you all this way, so forth and so on. Then the cons on the independent world. Well, here's the big problem. Where do they get their research? Where do they get their education? You don't just come out of college and go independent. So they have to learn the business somehow, and they also have to get their information for buying stocks or investing related information somewhere. And then the big one from the consumer standpoint is, who are you? Where did you come from? How come you haven't been around for 100 years? How can I trust a company that's only been around for 5 or 10 or 15 years versus a company that's been around for 100 years? So the perception of, I don't know who your company is, and you could be Bernie Madoff and run off with my money, okay? But understand that the structure of the legitimate independent world is different than what Bernie Madoff did. Bernie Madoff actually had a big company. All of the employees were considered captive agents. When your money was invested, it literally went to Bernie Madoff's company. The independent world doesn't work that way. I'm not allowed to have your money. You can't give me your money. Your money goes to TD Ameritrade or Schwab or Fidelity. It doesn't mean I'm a captive agent. It means I use them as our vendor. Your trading account, your investing account is held at one of those big companies, and they're the ones responsible for making sure no fraud happens, and that gives us access to the trading and being able to buy and sell investments. But the money does not get into our company in any way, shape, or form. Whereas Bernie Madoff, you literally wrote the check to Bernie Madoff's company. So we're talking a completely different level of fraud. When you're investing with an independent advisor, it's typically going to one of these big companies, and it should never go to their company individually. And that's really an important distinction, because the level of fraud that Bernie Madoff had superseded anything you're going to see in the independent world here. Just never write the check to the company that you're doing business with. It still goes to a Schwab, a Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, one of these other big companies, or the insurance companies. Okay. All right. Well, this is the captive versus independent. It's just really trying to understand the difference between the two and the legal standards that are out there for each side. I can be independent, I can be completely dishonest, and I could just have an insurance license and all I care about is selling you one thing. But I could also be independent, have a license for everything, be completely unbiased. So understand the independent side, you need to go into it with your eyes wide open. You might find exactly what you want here, but you might be scared and you might not want to go this direction. You might just feel okay knowing that it's with one of the bigger companies and they'll keep it moving along. Okay. All right. So fee structures, how do they make their money? This is important. If you're going to have an advisor, if you are going to have any form of any financial advisor, you have to understand that they will be making a living. They will be getting paid for whatever it is that they're doing. So we have to understand that and admit that, and then we have to be open with how do they get paid. Any advisor that you ask how they get paid, if they can't answer that question without stammering or talking around it, you should be very afraid and running. Okay, I always find it interesting when people come back and tell me the story about when they asked their advisor where the fees were and how they were getting paid. There's always an interesting story. So be careful about that, but be blunt and ask the questions. Because a lot of people out there make commissions on both sides of this world. There are commissions that get paid by companies that don't come from your money, but there are also lots of commissions that do come from your money, and you have to be aware of all sides of this. There are lots of commissions and they're everywhere. So you can't sit here and say anything that pays a commission is going to come from biased advice. No, not really. There's just some stuff that pays commissions, and that's just the way it is. We don't really have any choices. They may charge fees, flat percentages, which is the most common management fee. You'll see a percentage of the portfolio under management. This is a very common strategy here. And then there are also hourly rates out there. There's plenty of people that'll charge you hourly when you walk in their door, very much like lawyers. It's a little more rare, but it certainly is happening, especially for financial planning side. And then you can use any combination of these. So there are people that are taking commissions, charging a percentage to management, and charging you for hourly financial planning. Okay, there's plenty of them out there, and it can amount to a lot of fees. So we have to be careful about that. All right, so here's the thing, commissions. Both sides, securities and insurance, have lots of commissions. Both sides equally. There's a huge distinct difference between the security side and the insurance side, though. The insurance side, the commissions don't come from your money. Okay, that's an important distinction. We have to understand that. A little background noise. I'm going to remute. Okay, so there's a big distinction between the insurance side and securities. Securities come from your money. Insurance does not come from your money. The fixed indexed, the income annuities, all those annuities, the insurance companies pay the commissions to the advisors. The reason they do this, and they're fairly standard across the industry, the reason they do this is so they don't have to have their own captive salesmen running around the world selling their product only. And honestly, we don't want that. We'd rather have a situation where it was a fairly uniform, standardized commission out there for each type of product out there. So that way an advisor can look at what's right for you and put it in there as a part of a plan, and not use this company over this company because of a bias, because somebody paid more. So the reality is that we're getting there. There's still some differences in commissions. You know, I say 2 to 3% in the fixed annuity and immediate annuity. What I call this is commoditized. It's fairly standardized across the industry, fairly low commission. Because remember, your stockbrokers, they can say 1% a year. Well, an immediate annuity can last for a lifetime, and they're only going to make 2 to 3%. If a financial advisor takes money out of a stock portfolio and puts it into that, they're going to make 2 to 3% up front, but never make a penny on it ever again. It's kind of against, their, it's against their own best interest. So that's why we see biases out there. I don't want all your money going into an immediate annuity. I'm never going to make anything ever again off of you. That's not fair. So we do have to understand that when financial advisors put your money into annuities, they're getting an upfront commission, but they're never getting paid on that ever again. That's a little different than the stockbroker world, where you put your money in and it's a relationship. I have to keep you on board because I'm making 1% a year off of you for as long as I'm managing your money. So we have to understand that distinction. Some people need fixed annuities, immediate annuities, fixed indexed annuities, deferred income annuities. All of these things for some people are necessities. They can be very useful tools. But from a fee structure, these commissions are paid by the insurance companies and they don't come out of your money. And it may change motivations of people one way or the other. So we have to look at this. And I always say, if annuities are going to be part of your portfolio, they should come with a purpose. They should come with a plan. There should be a reason you're using that annuity, and you should understand its place in your portfolio. The securities world, this is where, we have to be careful because this is kind of systemized hidden commissions. And it is a dirty little secret in our industry, especially in the mutual fund world. And the securities world has been doing the best they can to get rid of it, even though it's the securities world that created it. So the mutual funds, there are many mutual funds out there that you put money in and the advisor can literally just take 5% of your money without telling you. And that's called a front load. Or when they sell it, they take 5% of your money. And that's a back load. Okay, these are commissions that come out of your money. The bond world, you'll never see these commissions. But I will tell you, there are companies out there, companies that you think that they are your advisory firm, but the problem is they're the ones buying the bond from you. Okay, so let's say you have a IBM bond, a $25,000 IBM bond, and you say, I need to sell this bond. Well, if Schwab or Fidelity or Edward Jones, if you're a client of theirs, they can literally buy it from you, and they're the ones telling you what the price is. So let's say they tell you the price is 98 cents on the dollar. Okay. So they pay you 98 cents on the dollar, and then they turn around and sell it to another client for 102 cents on the dollar. Okay. We have to understand that many of these companies out there are what we call market makers, and they are buying and selling the bonds from their own clients. And you will find it on their securities records, getting in trouble for this all the time. Okay. So be very careful about the individual bond world. There is a ton of that goes on out there. The buying and selling, you have to make sure that you're actually getting the true market price for when you are selling that bond or when you're actually buying that bond. And that's why when you see individual bond portfolios, you will find a lot more obscure bonds out there. So you can't actually find the legitimate price because there's nobody buying and selling them on the open market. So we have to be careful and understand that there's some big commissions going on that are coming out of your money in the mutual fund and individual bond world. Okay. Then the private investments, holy cow, there's an enormous commission that comes out of most private investments. So not the publicly traded REITs or MLPs. These are private investments. Understand, if you are investing in private investments, it should only be with money that you are willing to lose. Okay. This is an enormous commission game, and you can't trust anything that an advisor tells you about this private investment. And they are illiquid, meaning you can't just hit a button and sell it to the open market. So be careful. I mean, sometimes these are great, sometimes they're terrible. You lose all your money, terrible. Okay, so never put money you can't lose in private investments. And variable annuities on the securities side will come often with big commissions. This part of the industry has changed rapidly. Not only are there zero commission ones nowadays, but there's also 12% commission ones. So this is just an enormous wide variety of fee structures in the variable annuity world. Quite often nowadays, I think the national average is still right around 3% in ongoing annual fees in these. Quite often the advisors will make a commission up front and continue to make advisory fees on these. So be careful. There has to be a very, very, very distinct reason that you're using a variable annuity because they are very expensive, and we need to be careful about that. Okay, so commissions, they're everywhere. And I'll show you some examples at the end of some of these mutual funds that are out there. Fee for advice, I'm just going to be honest, I don't think it exists anymore. I don't know of anybody out there that is providing hourly or by project only, meaning they are not there to implement the plan. They can't be there to buy the stocks and mutual funds and annuities and life insurance. They can't implement the plan. They have to be there to advise you on a plan, but you have to be the one implementing the plan. Otherwise, they are incentivized by other fees. So we have to understand that this really doesn't exist. There are people out there that say they are this type of advisor, but they're always wanting your business and helping you implement some of this business. So be careful about this. This is somebody who should be completely unbiased, that should be completely knowledgeable in all sides of financial advisory, but should not be there to implement and manage your portfolio for additional fees. Okay, so that's this way they stay unbiased. They should have the stance where they could care less whether you're a client or not. You're going to pay me for my advice and go use my advice. So then fee only, this is where the 65 license comes in. When we say fee only in the securities world, transparency was the goal because this is the independent advisor. So they actually eliminated those transactional commissions. They can't make those fees, those commissions on the individual bonds. They can't make the front load, back load from the mutual funds. So the only way they're able to charge, whoops, one too far. The only way they're able to charge their fee is either a flat or hourly fee, or what's typically there, a percentage, 1% to manage your portfolio. It has to be as transparent as possible, and they are prohibited from taking any of those hidden commissions. Okay, and that's the independent stockbroker advisor. Okay, that doesn't apply to the insurance world. They could still have an insurance license and take a commission on an annuity. All right. Then you got the fee-based, not variable, just so you know, a little confusing. Fee-based side. So this is the series 7 and 6. We have to understand these are the people that work for the big companies. Okay. And I know everybody thinks that all the big companies must be perfectly honest and wonderful, but this is where all those commissions come from. This is where the mutual fund front load, back load comes from. This is where the big commissions and the variable annuities, the bonds, the individual bonds. The only place you can do that stuff is at the big companies, at the banks, at the Schwabs, the Fidelities, all the big boys out there. They're the only ones allowed to do it. A Series 6 license and a Series 7 license can not only charge you a fee to manage your money, but also make all those commissions behind the scenes as well. So we have to pay attention when we go this route. We have to be careful. There's also lots of miscellaneous fees we find out there on statements, and some of these are pure entertainment for me. I laughed when I saw the advertising fee on somebody's statement. Anybody's always free to come in and meet with me and show me what they have and get my opinion on it. But if you show me your statement and I see a fee being charged to you for advertising, I am going to laugh. I'm sorry. I think it's completely absurd that anyone in this industry would charge their clients for advertising. But that's me. Some companies charge setup fees. Some charge, obviously, the management fees, the termination fees. You close an account, they charge a fee. Transfer fees. Understand all mutual funds have ongoing fees. Okay. Not only do they have ongoing fees, but there are things called 12B1 fees, meaning the mutual fund is going to charge you fees. And then they're going to take some of those fees and then send it back to your advisor and say, thanks for sending us business. And they're going to do that all the time. They're charging you these annual fees. They're coming out all the time, and they're sending money to the advisor all the time. Those are 12B1 fees. They're hidden fees. The advisor could say, I'm not charging you anything, and make all their money from 12B1 fees and front and back loads. Okay, so I'll show you some of those coming up in 2 seconds here. There's annual maintenance fees. There's that advertising fee, annual account fees, operating expenses, transaction fees. So we have to understand, we have to look at the big picture. Where are all these fees? And they should be open and honest about all these fees. So when I talk about commissions from mutual funds, We have to understand that every mutual fund out there has multiple versions of it, whether it's a Class A or an institutional I share. There's B share, there's C share. There's all these different shares of the exact same mutual fund. And it's up to your advisor or you to pick the right share. And the only difference between each share is the fees. Believe it or not, these are the exact same mutual funds, and Morningstar rates this one 2-star, whereas this one's 5-star, and it's the exact same portfolio. It just has a different fee structure. So the A share will come with a 5.75 front load, meaning the advisor can take 5.75% of your money, take it, and put it in their own pocket when they put the money into that mutual fund. And they don't have to tell you this. And you're not going to see it. Because of the fluctuations in the stock market, they buy it, it goes into the mutual fund, and the market fluctuates, and you get your statement, and you had no idea that that much money disappeared. You thought maybe the market went down a little bit. And then the ongoing expense just from the mutual fund is 1%, 1.06%. That's every year they're charging you 1.06. So if your advisor is charging you 1% to manage the portfolio, they're taking a 5.75 load, and the mutual fund they put you in is charging you another percent. You can see these fees are adding up. And this is typical. We see this all the time. Okay. This is not a thing of the past yet. Then the iShare, you can see, look at the difference here. There's no load. Nobody taking a commission out of your dollars. And the ongoing expense is only 0.51. It's the same mutual fund. Which one would you rather have? And then there's the B share, which is even more atrocious. The B shares are usually the worst. The backload's 5%. And the ongoing expense, the annual expense from the mutual fund is 1.77. But they're kicking back to the advisor 0.75% from that fee they're charging you. So again, the advisor could say, oh, I don't charge any management fees. But they're getting a 5% commission from the mutual fund and getting paid 0.75 ongoing from the mutual fund from your money. Okay. So look into what kind of mutual funds you have. If you have A or B shares, they are very expensive. You can count on them having commissions and 12B1 fees and all the hidden fees that are out there. Target date funds are also dangerous. This is a phenomenon in the 401k world that has moved to the advisory world, unfortunately. So the thing that I tell people about these target date funds, typically, they're mutual funds filled with more mutual funds. So this mutual fund has a 1.58 expense with a 12B1, again, that kickback to the advisor of 0.5%. But then they went and bought more mutual funds, and those mutual funds have expense ratios as well. Another 0.5%, 0.8, 1%, so forth and so on. So now we have how many layers of fees? I mean, we've got to be careful about this. If we're paying an advisor to pick investments and they're picking investments that are charging fees and picking more investments that have fees, it's getting absurd. So please understand the mutual fund game is really for individuals who want to invest on their own without the extra advisory fees. And we're seeing it also in the catch-all funds. Some of the most expensive mutual funds I've seen out there are just that bland, lifestyle aggressive. And the B share had a 5% backload, an ongoing annual expense of 2.28, and a full percent getting kicked back to the advisor. And the mutual fund is then filled with more and more mutual funds, with more and more fees. It's just insane what we see out there. So please be very careful when you are paying an advisor who is then handing all your money off to other advisors to manage your money, because that's what a mutual fund is. It's a portfolio managed by somebody else who doesn't know you and doesn't know your situation. Okay. So who needs what type of advisor? Well, when we look at the advisory world, there's lots of different types of advisors. If the true fee for advice actually existed. They're great for people that are just starting out and kind of need to get put on a good saving path and how to invest and kind of teach them the basics. Then there's the second opinion, wanting to figure out whether what you're being told is good, sound advice or not. And so I believe that, it's useful, but I really just don't believe there's an unbiased person out there in the fee for advice, even if you could find somebody that did that for a living. Series 6, well, honestly, the only reason the Series 6 person is out there is to pick mutual funds or variable annuities for you. There's not much in the way of advisory services from a Series 6 license. They are the new people that aren't allowed to give you advice. They're allowed to have their company tell them what mutual funds to put you in. I mean, that's just the reality of a Series 6 license. There is literally a license that a manager has to get to manage the Series 6 license. You can't have a Series 6 working at a company without a manager above you that is licensed to manage Series 6 licenses. So there's a lot of people overseeing these Series 6 license people. And then there's the asset manager with the big company. Again, the legitimate advisor at a big company is going to have a Series 7 license. And honestly, they should also have the insurance licensing if they're truly going to be unbiased. But again, what will the company allow them to do and not allow them to do? So if you're looking for somebody that has less bias than the Series 6, but still want to be at the big company, go to the person with the Series 7 license. The typical setup that we see out there is you'll have 5 or 6 Series 6 licenses for one Series 7. So you'll have a shop that has one Series 7 and a whole bunch of Series 6. The Series 6 go out there and drum up all the business. Anything that has maybe more than $500,000, they hand the bigger ones off to the Series 7 license. And that's how the typical shop will run. And then you've got the independent asset manager. Again, Series 65 is the securities licensing in the independent world. They register in the state as a registered investment advisor, makes them a fiduciary, which makes them legally responsible individually. They can't hide behind their company. And that does add quite a bit of responsibility to that 65 advisor. And then there's the insurance licensing. I joke everyone needs an insurance person. Well, everybody's got to have the home and auto insurance and things like that. But a good, well-rounded financial plan will address whether you need things like life insurance or long-term care insurance or annuities or any of that type of stuff. It may not be right for you. It may be right for you. The fact is if we're looking for truly unbiased advice, you're going to have an insurance license and either a 7 or 65. Do-it-yourselfers, never have a problem with that. As a matter of fact, I try to coach all of our clients' kids that want to be coached, and we typically, unless it's an extreme circumstance, won't manage their money. We will simply advise them on how to manage their money. I'm a big fan of the 20, 30, 40-year-olds doing it themselves. I'm an enormous fan of that. I want them to understand this stuff. It's just a lot more complex when you get to retirement, understanding the difference in investing in your distribution years versus your growth years. It's understanding that the taxation and everything else changes rapidly out there. And so if you're going to do it yourself, you have to have humility. You can't sit there and think that you're better than everybody else because you made one stock pick that was right. You tend to forget the ones that weren't right. So we have to be careful. There's a vast amount of knowledge out there that will create efficiencies in the retirement years. And so be humble and understand that you may not know everything and that a good cohesive plan can create some efficiencies. What to look for in a new advisor, determine what type of advisors you need. Okay. Look, I completely understand. There are a lot of people out there that just simply don't trust independent advisors. If I haven't heard of your company and it hasn't been around for 100 years, I can't trust you. It's inherent in my system. Okay, if you're that person, I completely understand. You need to go to the Schwab's, Fidelities, all the big boys out there. I completely understand that. So everybody is different in that perspective. The big companies, your client number 3, 4, 5, 6, independent, you should be treated as an individual. There, you will see a big difference in that. But you got to weed through a lot of salespeople and other people out there in the independent world, just like you do in the big company world. Okay. You really need to interview them. Okay. If you're looking for a new advisor, go to a handful of different advisors and you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to ask things like, how long have they been in business? Not the company per se, but the individual. How long have they been in business? What licenses and certifications do they hold? Remember, that's going to tell you a lot. If they're a master financial professional and they have an insurance license, I guarantee you they're biased, and I almost guarantee you they're salesmen. Because the master financial professional just had to pay a fee to get that and make them look and sound smart. Okay. What services do they offer and how do they get paid? Okay. Ask it. Be blunt. Don't be afraid to ask how they get paid. And if you don't understand how they get paid, ask more questions. If they don't answer you specifically, ask more questions. What's their work and educational background? Find out about them. Were they selling shoes last year? Did they get out of college 2 days ago? What is their situation? And what types of investments and products do they utilize for their clients? There's nothing wrong with asking, oh, we just mutual funds for everybody. Okay. Annuities, that's the only type of investment that's good. Okay. So you'd be amazed. Some people literally say things like that. And so now you know you're working with somebody who's biased. The other side of this is how well-rounded is their knowledge in what you need. You know, some people need to be looking at the estate planning side, the insurance side. You know, do I need long-term care? Do I need life insurance? Do they have an understanding in that side? How does it apply to my overall situation? Taxes, it's a huge topic. There are many advisors out there that won't give you tax advice, but I will flat out tell you that anybody putting an investment portfolio together better understand tax planning. They have to understand taxation because everything they're choosing to do in your portfolio is causing you taxation. So to say that I can't give you tax advice is absurd as far as I'm concerned. There is nobody telling me I can't give you tax advice. It's very important for some people to have advisors that understand taxation and the taxation that they are causing, more importantly, whether to do a Roth conversion or not. Because I will tell you, if you go to a CPA, they're going to look at you and say, I can't give you investing advice. I'm not going to talk to you about your portfolio. That's your financial advisors, because that is actually against their licensing. So you go to the tax advisor and they won't give you investing advice. You go to the investor and they won't give you the tax planning advice. It's, for a lot of people, absurd, and it shouldn't be happening that way. So plenty of good financial advisors out there understand taxation, estate planning, insurance, and the overall portfolio management. And that's really what a good advisor is there for, is trying to bring it all together. So get the small talk. You have to get along with these people. You have to feel free to say, I don't like that, or I do like that, but help me understand. Are they willing, not only willing, but patient enough to explain it to you if you want it explained to you? So you do have to get along with these people, and you have to feel comfortable enough to speak your mind. And that's very important. So watch out for things, you know, like any advisor that is braggadocious. My portfolio outperforms the market. Literally, they could lose their license for saying that. And I'm not joking. The SEC absolutely hates that. FINRA and SEC are governing bodies over the securities licensing, do not want stuff like that going on out there. Unless you have an audited track record from the SEC, you can't say things like that. Okay. This whole concept of we only accept clients with X amount of dollars. Look, the only reason they do this is because they don't want to waste their time making small fees on small clients. It's not that they're more prestigious or things. This is a business decision. I literally know somebody who went in, scraped together just enough to get in with a company, and 2008 happened, and they went below their limits and they kicked them out. Go find another advisor. Wait a second, you guys lost my money. So it may make them sound more prestigious. It's just that they're not willing to work with people less than that because they don't make enough money doing it. Again, pay attention to them. Don't sit there and do all the talking. Pay attention to them. You need to find out whether they care about your whole situation or just how much money you have. Okay, this is really important that you're aware of your surroundings and the process that you're going through. So pay attention if they're not conducting a thorough interview. Make sure that they are asking about all your assets, not just your investment accounts. You know, look, I've sat down in front of people and they have 200,000 to their name, but they had a $20 million real estate portfolio. And if I didn't ask all the questions, those are two completely different people. Somebody that just has 200,000 to their name and nothing else versus somebody who has 200,000 sitting in a checking account with millions of real estate coming in and an income situation where they have more income than they know what to do with from all the rent. So it's important that they're trying to discover your whole situation. They need to know about your income, not only your income, but your budget. If you told me your income is 10,000 a month, that's irrelevant to me if I don't know what your bills are. What if your bills are 20,000 a month? It's completely different than a person that has 10,000 a month coming in, but lives on 3,000 a month. So we have to understand both sides of that. We have to understand your budget, your heirs, your health, your goals. Do you want to buy a boat and sail off? And do you want to buy a condo in Cabo? What are you going to do in retirement and how are you going to spend this money? And that should all be incredibly important to an actual financial advisor. So when they're asking questions, see if they're taking notes, see if they actually care about your answers, because there's plenty of people out there that can fake this and they really don't care about your answers. But there's other people that utilize this and actually come up with a financial plan. And then also be careful about those people that only use one type of investment. Okay, your portfolio shouldn't just be filled with one type of investment. I'm not saying one mutual fund, but all mutual funds. Just being honest with you, I'm fine if you did it on your own and you're paying the fees to the mutual funds, but if you're paying an advisor who then just puts all your money in mutual funds, you're paying 2 layers of fees for honestly no reason. So be careful about that. Observe, ask, research, meaning really pay attention in the interview process. Do they do planning or just sell products? Do they incorporate tax planning into their advice? Do they have a thoughtful approach to investing, or is it just an automated system, or does their company just come up with the portfolio for you? Are you following along with whatever they're doing for all their clients? Do they understand the nuances of Social Security claiming, and does it even matter to you? You know, there are plenty of advisors that don't know anything about when and how to take Social Security or any of that stuff. Do they understand investing in the retirement distribution phase is completely different than your growth phase? And that's not an age-based thing. I know plenty of retirees that are still in growth mode. I know plenty of retirees that are in distribution mode. There's plenty of retirees that are in transfer mode. Everybody's in a different situation in life. And just because you're 70 doesn't mean that you're in distribution mode. you could have plenty of income and have no need for your savings and want that savings to go to your heirs. So investing for you is completely different than a 70-year-old that needs their savings to fund their own retirement. And this is why investing is different for every individual. So what to watch out for in your current advisor. Now, understand that a good financial advisor, it's about creating efficiencies. They have to earn their worth. Okay. Putting a good financial plan together means reducing taxation and reducing fees that you're paying. It's trying to eliminate the mutual fund with 2% in fees and get down to an ETF that only has a 0.5% or a 0.01% fee. So we have to go through and streamline your situation so it's laser focused on you and your needs. And so a good advisor is certainly going to earn their keep. They're going to reduce your taxation and they're going to create a much more efficient portfolio for you. That is the key to a good advisor. And you have to assess whether they're looking at all sides of this, trying to maintain good, strong efficiency in your portfolio. Choosing the right investments, managing the level of risk. If we can reduce the fees and the taxation, we can reduce the risk. Because if you need 6% growth just to keep up with the fees and the taxation that you're paying, if you eliminate the fees and taxation and maybe you only need 3% growth for the same performance, now it can be more reliable because you can reduce that risk. So we have to manage that risk. Estate planning, making sure we're making the right decisions on wealth transfer. Trust me, there's a big difference on investing for somebody that wants to transfer the wealth to the heirs. Picking different stocks and different investing strategies is very important from that side, along with taxation. Everything you choose to do, every stock you choose to buy comes with different taxation. Where to put bonds in your portfolios or CDs or insurance like annuities, things like that. It's very important that you put these in the right places in your portfolio. When I say places, there's, whether it's your IRA, your Roth, or your after-tax money, it's important that they're properly placed from a tax standpoint. And then the retirement planning brings it all together and manages the whole situation. Okay. Watch out for the high cost mutual funds, especially when there's quarterly reviews and they say, well, we're going to get out of this mutual fund and put you in a new mutual fund. If you have regular meetings and that's always what they're doing to you, all they're doing is churning your portfolio for more commissions and more fees. Honestly, we see it nonstop out there, and you have to be careful of this. If your portfolio is filled with mutual funds and you meet with them more than once a year and they're constantly changing from one mutual fund to the next mutual fund, that is what they're doing. They're doing it out of the motivation to make more commissions and more fees. Please, please watch out for that. We're trying to get that out of this industry. Unsolicited sale of variable annuities. Oh, let's make your money safe by putting it in the variable annuity. Variable annuities are not safe. They are invested in the stock market, and you have a national average of 3% in fees. And every person that brings their variable annuity into me says, I don't have 3% in fees. And then I turn to the part in the booklet where it shows you there's about 7 pages of fees that they're charging you that you're not seeing on your statement. So please understand, I'm not saying all variable annuities are bad. If you're going to use it as a pension, a guaranteed income, and there's a plan to use it properly, there's nothing wrong with these things. But if you bought it just because you were told that your money's safer in it, that is not what these are. That is smoke and mirrors, and you got sold a bill of goods. So be careful. Just the blanket statement of no, you should not pay off your mortgage. Oh, interest rates are 3% and I'm earning 6% in my portfolio. Let's put it this way. If you owned your house free and clear, would you mortgage it to the hilt and throw all the money in the stock market? Okay. There are some people that I'm fine having a mortgage in retirement, but honestly, everybody's goal should be to own their house free and clear before they head into retirement. If you go into retirement with a really big pension and lots of Social Security income and plenty of money and you want to keep a mortgage, I'm fine with that. But don't use the excuse that it's a tax write-off, because I'll be honest, you're wrong. It's not. Most people in retirement do the standard deduction, even if they have a mortgage with interest rates so low. If you want a big tax deduction, then go out there and get an 8% interest rate on your mortgage. Does that make sense? Because it's a bigger tax deduction. So this concept of this, a lot of the time the motive is, I don't want you to take the money out of your portfolio because I can't charge fees on it. So please, read between the lines on that and be careful. Dinner seminars selling one investment, of course, watch out for that. That should be a no-brainer at this point. And if you haven't been to a dinner seminar, go. It's very much like those timeshare seminars that you can go to, the sales spiels you can go to at the timeshares. They're there to sell you something. And it's important when you go there and eat their free meal that you understand that they will continue to pressure you. Selling private investments, please be careful about private investments. Again, if you're going to invest in the private investing world, you should be investing with money that you are okay losing. It's like going to a casino. You don't take all your money to the casino. You take a little portion to go have some fun. Okay. Turbulent backstory. Again, talk to your advisors, understand their history and understand their situation. One size fits all. Again, everybody's in a different situation. Warren Buffett, you can invest his money however he wants, but it's not applicable to all 80-year-olds. Consistently shifting tactics, meaning you keep going in and they keep moving and let's go from this mutual fund to this mutual fund, and I don't like this, let's move it over here, and then let's move it over here. This is a bad sign when they're constantly moving around. And then the flip side of that coin is the static approach. I met a lady who had two different stock portfolio statements, and I looked at her and I said, well, when was the last time you talked to these advisors? And she looked at me and said, I have no idea. It's been over 40 years. 40. I asked her, do you even know if they're alive? I have no idea. They never changed anything on those portfolios. They stayed the same all 40 years and never changed anything. She went into retirement. She was complaining to me about all the taxes that she was paying, and it was because of those two portfolios. And so, everything changes as you head into retirement, and your portfolio should be changing as you head into retirement. Another big change is when you hit required minimum distributions in your IRA. Your investing strategies should be changing as you approach that. And then the definition of insanity, hanging your hat on all the old rules. I mean, look, bonds and bond mutual funds have been the safe investing choice for the last 3 decades. And if you look at a chart of the United States interest rates, it's obvious why they have been fantastic, safe investments. And whether you like bonds or not, the bonds and bond mutual funds are correlated to interest rates, not stock markets. They have nothing to do with the stock market. When interest rates go down, the value of a bond goes up. Well, where are we at on interest rates? Just because bonds have been a great investment for the last 30 years doesn't mean they're going to continue that way forever. Bonds are correlated to interest rates, not stock markets. So as interest rates hit the bottom, then the value of bonds are the highest they will ever be. And if and when interest rates start going back up, the value of those bonds go down. And if you're only getting paid 2%, because interest rates are so low, if interest rates start going up and you start losing value, you're losing money. And the only way interest rates are going up is with inflation. So bond portfolios are going to struggle. And we have to understand that. You can't just do things because it's the way they are. That's just not how things work in the investing world. The 4% withdrawal rate. Look, with interest rates the way they are, no, it's not true. That original 4% withdrawal rate, you're supposed to be able to pull 4% of a well-diversified stock portfolio for the rest of your life. Well, that well-diversified stock portfolio was 60-40. 60% bonds, 40% stocks. That was the original mathematics of this. And it was back in the 90s when interest rates on bonds were 8, 9, 10, 11%. And I always look back at that and go, what planet do I live in? If you can earn 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% in a bond portfolio, why are you only allowed to pull 4%? That made zero sense to me at every level. And I'm the math geek, the spreadsheet geek, the one that plays with numbers. I've always looked at that and shook my head going, this is absurd. How is this good? But now with interest rates where they are, it's kind of hard to hit that 4% withdrawal rate rule. The turbulence that we have in the markets is really prohibitive to regular withdrawing. So be careful about this. It takes planning to be able to do things like that. And the other side of this is keeping your advisor honest. There's key things that really stick in a person's head when it comes to making them being honest. I'm a big person. I'm a big advocate of putting things in writing. I have some people that ask me to sign it. I created the plan and now I want you to sign it. But I'm also a big person. You don't have to know anything about stocks and bonds and taxes and any of this stuff, but you can act like you're interested. You can say, hey, I noticed you bought IBM stock the other day. Can you tell me what's going on with IBM? You can just ask questions and be inquisitive. Makes them think you're actually paying attention. The moral reminders like, understand this is our family's entire future. I'm relying on you. This puts a little guilt trip on them. And believe it or not, it actually does work for a lot of people. So these are little things that, they moral reminders, signing what they're saying they're going to do for you, making them think that you're paying attention or actually paying attention certainly is an option as well. And then rounding off some of the other miscellaneous stuff, please, whether you like Susie Orman or Jim Cramer or Dave Ramsey, I don't care. It's entirely up to you. But please understand that they are TV personalities that make their money in different ways. Susie Orman tells you to get out of debt, yet she's, the spokesperson for credit cards. Dave Ramsey is a realtor. The things that he literally says, not only on his website, but on his radio show, when it comes to the investing side, is criminal. And I'm not even joking. If he had any securities licensing, he would have lost it already. But he's a realtor. So the securities world can't really stop him from what he's doing. It's freedom of speech. He says the market concerns a consistent 12% a year, and it's literally written on his website. And so he tells, I literally listened to a radio show. He told an 80-year-old that sold her house and is going to rent for the rest of her life to throw all the money in good growth stock mutual funds and just pull the 12% from there to pay her rent. So I love Dave Ramsey's get out of debt advice and be responsible with money. He's fantastic at that. I wish his education was part of our education system for the younger people. But his investing advice is absurd and dangerous. And so we just have to be careful about stuff like this. Jim Cramer's, he's as controversial as it gets, but there was literally a website. There's two websites. There was one website that was keeping track of every stock pick he made on his show, and they did the opposite of his advice and did just as well as him. But there was also one, some college guys put a website together that had a monkey pick stocks. And their portfolio that was picked by the monkey actually beat Jim Cramer's portfolio. So look, they're TV personalities. They're entertaining to a lot of respects. Some of what they say is absolutely correct, but some of it's also motivated in different ways too. Susie Orman hated reverse mortgages, but then got paid by a reverse mortgage company, and she loved reverse mortgages. So we just got to be real careful about TV personalities. And then sensationalism. when it comes to the writings, the newspapers, the newsletters, all that stuff, the websites filled with articles. Motley Fool will literally post articles from anything, anywhere, anytime. There is no vetting. They are great at clickbait. You're looking on the front page of MSN and you click on something, it's clickbait. They just sensational headlines. We have to be careful about that stuff. There's good and bad on Motley Fool. Stansberry and Associates, a great newsletter all over the world. They send that newsletter, but they ask people like us to write a little article and put our number in and sell a product and split the commission with them for publishing the article. So there, a lot of the articles will have motivations behind them. Okay. Seeking Alpha, lots of free good articles on there, but bad articles. There's plenty of anything and everything. Both Motley Fool and Seeking Alpha are just filled with a hodgepodge of everything. Richard Russell, be careful, great stuff that comes out of him, but also a lot of sales driven stuff in there. Even the New York Times, they wrote an article front page. Reverse mortgages, stealing homes from seniors was the title of the article. I got so upset when I saw this. Read the article. If you read the whole thing, because it's not the first page, go back to C7 and finish the article. The whole idea of the article was that seniors were forgetting to pay their property taxes. And they were losing their homes because they were forgetting to pay their property tax. It had nothing to do with reverse mortgages. Yet the New York Times, a reputable newspaper, is writing articles that make people believe reverse mortgages are evil and stealing homes. No, they're not. And the article had nothing to do with that. They just put the headline on there because it sells newspapers. Okay, so just understand we have a lot of that going on out there. And I'm bad at, I'm a headline reader. The whole digital age of Twitter and everything else and just getting your news in a few characters. And it's terrible. We have to know that the headlines are sensationalism to catch your attention, and they're not necessarily what the article's about. Checking into someone, I used to tell everybody to Google them. But now there's companies that'll clean your name on Google. And the way you can figure that out is if you Google somebody's name and it's page after page after page after page of awards they won and how wonderful they are, that's manufactured. Just period. It's manufactured. They create all these separate little websites with all these fake awards that say how wonderful this person is. So they fill the whole first page of your Google search with garbage like that say how wonderful they are. Nowadays, I say if you Google someone and don't really get anything, that's probably better than anything else. I know plenty of people in the Valley here that I used to Google and it looked like a rap sheet from a police report. I mean, kicked out of this state, lost this license. I mean, it was just over and over again, terrible things. And now I Google them and they won every award and they're the most wonderful person in the world. Okay. So Google can be dangerous now. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is kind of where your resume goes, and you can find little tidbits about their history and and where they went to college and what kind of jobs they've had in their life. It might cause discussions in your interview with them, so not a bad place to go find that out. Brokercheck.finra.org, securities licensing. You can find out if there's been any disciplinary action on there, and you can find out what type of license they hold. So if they've been in trouble, it'll be on there. The insurance world, this is something that's changing. They're working on a national database for the insurance licensing. So we now have a place to track disciplinary actions and things like that. But at this point, if you're in Arizona, it's state by state. You have to call the Arizona Department of Insurance, tell them the name of the insurance agent. They will look them up and let you know if there's any disciplinary action and if they're in good standing. We're getting real close on having that national database, though. And then there's lots of associations out there that some people will tout that make them more credible. I at one point was a member of the National Ethics Association. And I've always joked from day one that and that alone is what makes me ethical. I joined that association. But what really happened was I'm required to have E&O insurance, errors and omissions insurance. It's a requirement of my licensing to maintain E&O insurance. And so I went and bought my E&O insurance from a reputable insurance company, and they automatically signed me up for membership of the National Ethics Association. And in the mail showed up this little sticker and this little card stand saying, I'm a proud member of the National Ethics Association. There was no qualifying for it. I did not click on something that said I want to be a member. So, so being a member of the National Ethics Association does not make me ethical. And nor do any of these associations. They really, you can sign up pretty easily for any of these. There's not really any vetting going on or anything like that. So be careful about the associations. If people say, I'm the chairman of the National Ethics, no, it's usually meaningless. So I always end with the kind of a blanket advice of retirement planning is not just investing your money. You know, a lot of 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, they need to learn to just invest their money. They need to learn to save first, then they need to learn to invest their money. But when it comes to transitioning towards retirement and in retirement, it's not all it's about. So be honest about where you are and where you want to be. Set goals, educate yourself. Develop a strategy, inspect what you expect, and consult with knowledgeable, unbiased advisors. And hopefully this class helps you determine whether you're working with these unbiased advisors. Help us out. Let us know how we did. If you want any of our materials, we have free reports and stuff like that in person. It's a lot easier to do all this stuff. Usually I hand this stuff out. But it's kind of hard doing these over the web. So certainly if you want anything from us, the email address, contact us at sesweb.net or give us a call, 800-345-3155. Certainly you can say, hey, send me a copy of that report or give me a copy of this presentation. I'm more than happy to send those off to you. And then the nonprofit requires I give at least an hour of my time to anybody that wants it. It's not a sales appointment. We don't charge for it. And we're more than happy to give you our advice on any questions you have. So let us know if you want to meet with us for any reason whatsoever. We can talk about how blue the sky is or how terrible the political world is. I don't care what we talk about. First meeting's entirely up to you. Certainly if you want to do business with our firm or myself, that would be after that first meeting. It's entirely up to you. And then keep an eye on our nonprofit website, fpfeaz.org, for all of our upcoming classes, especially as hopefully we start transitioning back to in-person classes. This will keep you updated on everything. We also have a newsletter we can send you every week. We tell you what classes are happening and where they're happening and all that type of stuff. I do know next Monday we will be doing an open Q&A, kind of a new thing that we've been trying. It's been working out really well. The topic of the Q&A this week is a little different than our topic today. So Monday at 5 p.m. and you can find the link through Scottsdale Library or our website. The topic is safe investing. So ask all the questions you want on all the different safe investing strategies that are out there. So that's Monday night at 5 p.m. It's open forum. You join, you ask any questions you want. And I do the best I can to answer everything. All right, I am going to stop the recording